Good day everyone. Welcome to Learn with MN. In this video, we'll explore the Fill and Stroke panel in Inkscape. The Fill and Stroke panel is a powerful tool that allows users to customize an object's appearance by modifying its fill color, and stroke style. To access this panel, go to the Object menu and select Fill and Stroke. You can also use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-F or click this icon in the command bar. The Fill and Stroke panel will appear on the right-hand side. This panel consists of 3 tabs: Fill, Stroke Paint, and Stroke Style. Let's discuss each tab in detail. The fill refers to how the area inside an object's boundary path is painted, while the stroke refers to the path or outline itself. Both fill and stroke can be set to a solid color, a gradient, a pattern, or no paint at all. The Fill tab controls the fill of an object, while the Stroke Paint tab controls the object's stroke. These options will be disabled if no object is selected. However, when an object is selected, Inkscape highlights its current fill type, allowing you to modify it easily. You can also view an object's current fill and stroke in the Style indicator, located on the left side of the status bar. The first option is No Paint. This option removes the fill of the selected object. Clicking this will set the fill to none. The second option is Flat Color, which applies a uniform fill to the selected object. Below you can edit the color based on the selected color styles. There are different color styles in this dropdown from which you can choose. By default, HSL is selected. Other available styles are HSV, RGB, CMYK, HSLove, and CMS. You can also change the fill and stroke of selected objects using the built-in color palette at the bottom. Left-click on a color will change the fill of the object, while holding the shift with left-click will change the stroke of the selected object. You can also turn the fill and stroke to none by clicking this crosshair. The Dropper tool is also given here in the Fill and Stroke tab. The Dropper tool is used to pick a color from any object or image and assign it to the selected object. To learn more about this tool, check out its dedicated tutorial. Its link is in the description. You can also assign a custom color to the selected object by entering its hex color code in the RGBA field. The first 6 characters represent the red, green, and blue values. The last 2 characters define the alpha, or opacity, which represents the transparency of the object. 00 means completely transparent, and FF means fully opaque. The next 2 options allow you to apply gradients to objects. The first is for linear gradient, and the second is for radial gradient. You can also create and edit gradients using the Gradient tool. All the gradient-related options available in the Gradient tool control bar are also accessible in the Fill and Stroke panel. Gradient is equivalent to the Select drop-down. This drop-down contains the list of all gradients we have used in this document. The Repeat drop-down controls what happens before the first stop and after the last stop in the gradient. It offers 3 options. None, which is by default selected, reflected, and direct. This is the Reverse Gradient option. It reverses the gradient of the selected objects. Stops and stop offset are related to each other. Stops give you a list of all nodes or stops of the selected object's gradient and their respective colors. You can add more stops by clicking this plus button, or delete any stop using the minus button. Stop offset defines the distance of each stop from the start node. Its value ranges from 0 to 1.00. 0 is for the start, and 1 is for the end stop. You can change the color and offset value by selecting any stop from this list. You can also use this slider for the same purpose. These points represent stops, and their position in gradient. You can change their position by moving them. Double-click will add a new stop, and pressing the delete key will delete the active stop. These options are added for the first time in the new 1.4 version. Orientation lets you define the angle of the gradient. You can manually type any specific angle value for your linear gradient. You can also use this slider for the same purpose. This option rotates the gradient by a 90-degree angle. To learn more about the gradient tool and all these options in detail with examples, refer to its tutorial. Its link is in the description. The next fill type is Mesh Gradient. This applies the mesh gradient to the selected object. This drop-down shows the list of all mesh gradients used in the document. To edit the mesh gradient tool is used. To learn more about the mesh gradient and mesh gradient tool in detail, refer to its tutorial. Its link is in the description. The next fill type is Patterns. Using this option you can use any pattern as a fill of an object. You can choose from the predefined patterns here, or you can also create your custom pattern and edit it as per your need. Pattern fill shows the pattern that you have applied to the selected object. If you hover over it, it will show its name. This drop-down shows a list of different pattern sets. You can view patterns of any specific set by selecting them from this list, or you can view all patterns by selecting all patterns. Right now, their names are hidden. If you want to see the name of each symbol, then click this button, and check the Show Names option. You can also change the preview size of patterns with the Tile Size option. Here, you can search patterns by name. This window shows the preview of the pattern. Scale X and Y are used to scale the pattern. Link this if you want to scale proportionally. Orientation is used to rotate the pattern by a specific angle value. You can also use the slider for the same purpose. Offset X and Y are used to move the pattern horizontally and vertically. These two options are used to make gaps between tile designs in the pattern. X is for a horizontal gap, and Y is for a vertical gap. In color, you can apply any custom color to the pattern. You can also edit the pattern directly on the canvas. You can do this by clicking the Edit on Canvas button or using the Node tool. To learn about how to create a custom pattern and edit it using these options in detail, check out its tutorial. Its link is in the description. The next option is Swatch. This option is used to make custom colors and gradient swatches or color palettes for your document. Let's say I have these colors that I want to use in my document. So it is best practice to convert them into swatches. To do so, select the object with the desired color, and click the Swatch button here. As you can see, the selected color is added in the list. You can give it a custom name for ease. This shows the number of occurrences of that color. Add each color by following the same steps. Here you can edit the added swatches. To use these swatches, go to the View menu, and open the Swatches panel. You can also use the shortcut key Ctrl-Shift-W. You can see added swatches are available here. You can also open them here in the Color Palette tray. For this, click this button, and instead of Inkscape Default, select Document Swatches, and your saved swatches will open here. Now you can create your design and color it using the Swatches tab. Let's say you want to change this color into another color. So instead of selecting all its occurrences, we will go to the Fill and Stroke tab, and down here edit that swatch to our desired color. This will update that color all over the document where it is used. This helps a lot when you are working on a theme design. The last fill type is Unset. The Unset fill option does not assign a specific color to an object. Instead, the object inherits its fill color from its parent element. This feature is especially useful when working with clones, patterns, and symbols. By default, Unset fills the object with a black color. To learn about how clones are created and how Unset is useful in clones in detail, check out the playlist about clones in Inkscape. Its link is in the description. All these fill options are also available for stroke in the Stroke Paint tab, with the only difference being that they modify the stroke color instead of the fill. Now, let's talk about fill rules. These two options are related to fill rules. Fill rules control how overlapping or self-intersecting paths are filled. There are two main fill rules, the even-odd rule and the non-zero rule. The first option represents the even-odd rule. To understand this, let's take this as an example. Imagine we pass a straight line from outside the compound path, and number each region we enter. We start with 0 outside the path, and every time we cross an edge, we add 1 to the number. This rule fills areas based on these numbers. Let's fill this with a flat color, and apply the even-odd rule. As you can see, if the number of crossings is odd, that region gets filled. If it's even, it stays unfilled. That's why it's called the even-odd rule. The second option is the non-zero rule. This rule fills overlapping areas based on the direction of the path. Let's take this as an example. Again, we will pass a straight path from outside, and assign numbers, but this time we also consider the edge direction. If the edge direction is clockwise, we will add 1, and if it's counterclockwise, we will subtract 1. Let's fill this with a flat color, and apply the non-zero rule. As you can see, any region with a non-zero value gets filled, while zero-value regions remain unfilled. That's why it's called the non-zero rule, because all non-zero areas are filled. Next, let's move on to the Stroke Style tab. This tab allows you to customize the stroke's width, shape, and overall appearance. The width adjusts the thickness of the stroke. The higher the value, the thicker will be the stroke. You can also change the unit from this drop-down menu. The dashes option converts a solid stroke into a dashed line. There are some predefined dash patterns you can choose from, or you can create a custom pattern by clicking the custom option here. When using the custom option, the first value defines the dash length, the second value defines the gap, and so on. For example, entering 1, 3, 4, 3 will create a pattern with a 1 mm dash, a 3 mm gap, a 4 mm dash, and another 3 mm gap, like this. The offset option shifts the dash pattern along the path. This helps to adjust the start and end of the pattern by moving it. The unit for both dash pattern and offset is the same as the stroke width. Next are markers. Markers are elements that can be added at the start, middle, or end of a path, like arrowheads. The first drop-down adds a marker at the start node of the path. The third drop-down adds a marker at the end node of the path. And the second drop-down places markers at all middle nodes except the start and end. This preview window here shows the preview of the marker. Scale X and Y are used to scale the marker. If you want to scale proportionally, keep the link icon enabled. Otherwise, you can adjust the width and height separately. If this checkbox is checked, markers will resize when you change the stroke width. Otherwise, they stay the same size, and you can manually scale them here. There are different orientations available for markers. The first one aligns the marker along the path but flips it at the start, like this. The second one aligns it along the path without flipping. The third lets you rotate the marker by entering a specific angle. The last option flips the marker horizontally. Offset X and Y are used to move the markers horizontally and vertically. You can also edit the markers directly on the canvas. You can do this by clicking the Edit on Canvas button. Clicking this will show 5 nodes, 3 square nodes, 1 circular node, and a diamond node. The square nodes resize the marker, like this. The circular node rotates the marker, like this. And last, the middle diamond node moves the marker horizontally or vertically. Join determines how the corners of a path appear. There are three types of join. First is bevel join. It makes the corners flat, like this. The second is round join. It creates smooth, rounded corners, like this. The third is miter join. It creates sharp corners, like this. When miter join is selected, sharp corners can extend quite far, if the angle between two segments is small. If that happens, it is preferred to switch to bevel join to prevent excessive projections. The miter limit controls when a miter join should automatically switch to a bevel join. If the distance from the inner intersection point to the tip of the triangle is more than the miter limit, the join will be converted to a bevel automatically. For example, if I set the miter limit to 3.00 for this path, this corner is converted back to bevel, while the other corners have still miter join. The unit of miter limit is the same as the stroke width. Next is cap. Cap controls how the ends of an open path look. There are three types of caps. First is the butt cap. It ends the path exactly at the endpoint, like this. The second is the round cap. It adds a semicircular cap at the endpoint, like this. And third is the square cap. It extends the endpoint slightly with a square, like this. Next is order. In the order section, you can select the order in which the fill, stroke, and markers of an object will be drawn. There are 6 different order options. The default is fill, stroke, marker, which means the fill is at bottom, stroke is in the middle, and markers are at the top. You can change the order depending on how you want elements to be layered. At the bottom, there are 2 important sliders. These sliders affect the entire object, including both fill and stroke. Blur softens the edges and details of the selected object, like this. Opacity controls the transparency of the entire object. Opacity is different from the alpha setting in the fill and stroke tab. Alpha controls transparency separately for the fill and stroke, while opacity works on the whole object including fill and stroke. Blend modes control how overlapping objects interact visually, affecting their colors and transparency. Inkscape offers a variety of blend modes, which you can find in this drop-down menu. Each mode changes the way colors mix based on the objects beneath them. Blend modes are a vast topic on their own, with endless possibilities for creative blending effects. If you'd like us to create a dedicated tutorial on how each blend mode works, let us know in the comments section. For now, that was all for this video. If you have any queries, feel free to write in the comments section or contact us on our website, its link is in the description. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.